I always find it so obnoxious when people claim to know exactly what they would do if they were in someone else's situation, a situation they themselves have never even been in. But it's like people love to give advice out of this narcissistic want to sound smart and to exert some sort of authority or superiority over others, when in actuality, it just exposes how dumb and inferior they are. Like, for instance, when people tell me, you should write a book or start a YouTube channel, you could make a lot of money. It's like, thanks for the suggestion, but I've already been doing these things for a decade or two. And no, you can't. Which is something you'd know if you'd ever even tried. But thank you for your attempt at deluding me into some some narcissistic delusion about fame and fortune. But most of these people are really just reciting tropes. Like when people give relationship advice to others, especially when single people do it. And you've definitely had more relationship experience than them. Like you're just getting out of a relationship that lasted for years and they've barely had any relationships themselves, and they'll just say something to you like, just be yourself and your right person will come along. Again, just reciting tropes. It's like, thanks for the lines of generic bullshit, dumbass. Like, that was doing less than nothing for me. I would have been better off if you had just kept your mouth shut. But the most hilarious example is like when a person who is below average themselves, haven't really accomplished anything or shown any signs of intelligence in their life, they claim to know exactly what they would do if they were some politician or celebrity or professional athlete, or someone of some high stature. And they'll say something like, I'll tell you what I'd do if I were the president. Which, is especially funny if they've never even been the president of anything. Or probably my favorite example as an athlete is like when a completely unathletic sports fan, the type who watches games while getting beer and chicken wing sauce like all over the front of their shirt, dribbling it down their beer belly, which is like pushing through the bottom of their shirt. And they claim to know exactly what they would have done if they were a particular star athlete during some crucial play or something, in spite of the fact that they haven't worked out in their entire adult life. I just want to say to these people, shut the fuck up. You don't even know what to do with yourself. You have no idea what you'd do if you were someone else, especially not someone successful. I mean, most of these people have no idea what they're even going to do for their next meal. And almost every bit of advice they give is absolute bullshit. Half of what they say is nonsense, with no common sense whatsoever, or logic, or rationale. And the other half that may make a little bit of sense is just them reciting tropes. Just feeding you lines of generic bullshit that they're regurgitating. And do I really have to be the one to point out the obvious reasons why people aren't in more successful positions like that of politicians, and why they don't actually have the credibility or the authority to make any of these kinds of judgment calls? Do I have to be the asshole to tell them they don't actually know more about what to do in anyone else's shoes than those people do? Especially if this person's at some elite level and you aren't even close to it. Why does it gotta be me? Why do I have to end up in these conversations with people? I don't know why, but I guess it's got to be me to say. You people don't know what the fuck you would do in anyone else's shoes. So shut the fuck up. You know, you could barely figure your own life out. Work on that first. Besides, if you had any common sense, you'd know. Technically, if you were someone else, you would just be doing whatever they are already doing. Because you'd be them, so you'd already be making their decisions, thinking their subjective thoughts, which you can't think unless you are them, right? And why you can only understand your own subjective reality. Because you aren't anyone else. You're you. And you're doing a pretty terrible job at that. And when you want to go spouting off about what you do in some much more successful person's shoes, like a politician or some expert in a field you've never even been in, it just makes you sound retarded. So just shut the fuck up. You'd sound smarter if you said nothing. So next time someone says to me, you know what I'd do if I were the president? I'm just going to say no. Neither do you.